things and wait and see what happens. And that's the one day you're going to get a sellout. Not now.
Yeah, not now. No need, no real, should I say, there is a need now for that gimmick to fill it, and it is a shame that has to be done to be able to fill that park. And like you said, Bob, it was a holiday on opening day. First professional game you saw, Bob, when was that?
First professional game, went with the Boy Scouts to Pittsburgh. They were playing the New York Giants at the time, back in the days of Mel Watt and Ralph Kiner and so forth. But anyhow, the game was rained out. So later in the summer of that year, I got a chance to go to Cleveland, and that Cleveland was a hot team there. That was 1948, and they won the last time they won a World Series.
All because you went to the game.
Probably. I fell in love with that team, with Lou Boudreau, the playing manager, and Jim Hagan behind the plate, Joe Gordon, Ken Keltner, Larry Doby in center field. It was quite a team.
Quite a team. Good cohesiveness with that team. It's like you couldn't pry those guys apart.
That's right.
I think
that was my first official baseball game.
First official one.
Yep.
Oh man, been to a few in between.
I think so.
All right, JB, any big plans? As we always talk every year before baseball season starts, when are you going to go see the Green Monster?
Boy, I don't know. That's on my list. I've got a couple people that say they can get me there, and we'll see what happens.
What happens with it.
Like I said, I've got plans. We just got back from Columbus. Spent the weekend with a gentleman we met a few years ago, and he lives in Detroit, and he's offered to get us tickets for the Red Sox when they come to Detroit. I've been to that stadium. I've been to Cleveland to see him numerous times. Been to Cincinnati. Been to Baltimore, but Fenway's definitely on my list.
It's got to be there, huh?
Has to be.
Has to be there. Simple as that. Cool. Best ballpark that you've ever visited. JB, open with you, and then we'll head over there to Bob and find out what's the best stadium that you've been to see a game. Talking atmosphere, seats, the feeling, the stadium, everything together. What would you say?
PNC's right up in there. That ballpark is amazing. Camden Yards in Baltimore, probably because we went and saw the Red Sox there. My son and a friend of his, and went for the weekend and saw Camden Yards. It's right outside the Inner Harbor of Baltimore. If you've never been to the Inner Harbor, that's one place you definitely want to get to. It's really a unique place to go and to watch a game. And but PNC's right up in there. Their field is really nice. Cleveland Stadium's good and nice too. So Cincinnati, I've been there, and it's kind of unique in how it's set up, and balls travel out of there, and they got that boat in the back in center field, and it's so. I mean, I'm sure I haven't been to as many ballparks as Duff's been to. I think I'd like to get to Wrigley too one time, or go to Chicago, take one of those tours where you hit about 3 or 4 ballparks.
You sound like you need a little bit of water there, JB.
Yep, I think you're right.
Running on dry. That happens around here. Get to just carrying on a little bit too much with it all.
Got it.
There's some beautiful ballparks out there, man. And it's nice to say that PNC is one that is right here with us. And that's just a fantastic, fantastic one. Bob, if you had to pick the best one out there, where would you go with?
I have to agree with John. PNC Park and that drop of the background of the city, of Pittsburgh, the buildings and so forth. I have to go with PNC Park. I've been to Wrigley Field, but Wrigley Field is an ancient park. But the atmosphere you can't beat. You're close to the field. You're close to the players, and it's a wonderful small ballpark. And I loved every minute. I've been out there twice, and to see the Pirates play, and I enjoyed it each time.
You were there with me. You were at PNC with me.
Right.
We saw the Red Sox. I told Duff that Big Poppy was going to hit one in the river.
And he did.
He did.
He did that day.
Yeah.
I remember it shot right out of there.
Yep.
Yep. No doubt about it.
Yeah, other than listening to John, I always enjoyed PNC Park.
Especially when the tickets are free and the beer's free.
There you are.
You got that right.
They're throwing a free hot dog, even if you got to pay $1 for it, that'll be all right. Simple as that. Simple as that. All right. I think the best one, Camden Yards. It is amazing, and PNC is right there. I'm going to have to go with John on that, but that atmosphere down there in that Inner Harbor area, right there at Baltimore, is absolutely amazing. The way that field is set up, you're right in the city. You're right by it. You feel such a part of everything that's going on around you. And what I really like about it, it's not all built up. It's not a big upscale area. 5 steps away, you're at a restaurant. 5 steps away, you're at a store. It's not just like a tourist attraction type of a deal. It's part of the city itself, and I think that's what sells it.
Well, I think that in the back, in right field at Camden Yards, is the old stockyards or something.
Yes.
Where the railroad went through and everything, and it's really a unique place to go watch a game. I mean, you're right down on top of the players, and the field's right there, and a lot of the places now that have multiple sports teams with football and baseball, their stadiums are really within walking distance of each other. PNC and Heinz Field. You can park in the middle and get to one in 5 minutes and get to the other one in 5 minutes on a walk. And Camden Yards is a lot like that too. But it was a pretty unique place to watch a game.
It certainly was, and opening day again is coming right around the bend. So get ready for the baseball action coming your way. JB, you've been on assignment for us. You were heading down, and you were talking about that trip to Columbus, straight back from the Ohio State basketball championships. How about that atmosphere? I mean, what was it like this year? Because you are an annual attendee.
Yes, 49 years in a row.
49 in a row.
Since I was a senior in high school that I've been there, well, with coaching and everything else. But
so next year you go down.
I hope they're going to give me a watch
in a chauffeured car.
I hope I get a watch next year or something. But no, they
get a free hot dog next year.
It's entirely different than what it used to be. The attendance was down considerably. Had the 2 lowest attended games right after each other on Thursday. The Division IV games. Highland played the first game, lost, and they set the record. And then the next day, I think it's Bob's alma mater, Afrocentric, the Nubians.
Yes,
they set the record the next day. So, but I it was kind of unique because I went down with my son and I met him, and Wednesday night we went down to Afrocentric. It's in the inner city, and he knows the coach down there, and they were doing their final walkthrough, and he had a gentleman that was his mentor. His name's a guy by the name of Gene Davis, and he was an assistant under Bob Knight at Indiana. He was an assistant at Ohio State, and he coached high school basketball at Lyndon McKinley when they won a state championship. And got a chance to meet him, got a chance to talk to him, and it was a different perspective. But the days before, when you went down in St. John's, when you were getting 13,000 people and you couldn't get a ticket, and the scalpers were out, and that's really one of the better things because the scalpers are losing a lot of money. But
right, makes it safer.
Yeah, exactly. And the attendance was down. I think the highest attended game was the D1 semifinal game. I think they had about 11,000. But when you're sitting in Schottenstein down there and there's room for 18 or 19,000 people, the days when LeBron was there and when they had 18 or 19,000 people, and you look around and there's 6,500.
Wow.
I think the High School Athletic Association is going to have to take a long, hard look at how they want to do things, how they want to do that. Move it. Now, I mean, they have another nice arena down in Columbus. Ohio State's St. John's is still available. I mean,
yes.
They could put it back there, or they could go down to Nationwide downtown where the Blue Jackets play. They seat about 14,000. And it might be a little better moving it down there. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but the attendance was way down, and it's something they're going to have to take a long, hard look at.
Yeah, definitely. Now, about the game, tell me about that process walking in there. You go with Nubians are getting ready to do that final walkthrough. They're going to go play for the state championship. Tell me about that atmosphere in that gym as they're going through it. Were they managing that excitement really well?
I think so. I think the fact that they've been there, I think they play a pretty hard schedule, played a pretty tough schedule, and they played Harvest Prep who was undefeated, coming in 27, 28-0, and hadn't played the schedule that Afrocentric played. Afrocentric won the game by about 7 or 8 points, and then they played Marion Stein from the northwest end of the state, who's been to the state tournament, never won one, but great game, the best game of the tournament, double overtime, 52-51. Marion Stein wins, and Afrocentric misses a shot at the buzzer. So,
Oh my.
best game of the tournament. But yeah, and then I mean, the division, the Division III was really, it's frustrating because I know it's used to using. When I was a high school coach, when you always had a chance to everybody has an opportunity to get there. But there was a team that won this year, Division III, Deer Park out of Cincinnati.
Yeah, Deer Park. Familiar with it.
9 transfers from
really?
last year that came in. 28-0 going in the state tournament. They won 2 games. It was an AAU team.
Yeah.
They ran up and down the floor. It was like North College Hill a couple years ago from Cincinnati. First time in the history of the tournament that a team from Cincinnati, from Hamilton County, had went through the season undefeated and won a state championship. But again, nine kids that weren't there last year.
Right, 9 transfers in.
Probably, it was Kentucky, little
Yeah.
Kentucky. Next year they'll have 9 new guys, and it's just,
Wow.
Local public teams have a hard time competing. It's
Very,
tough.
very difficult time
It's tough.
competing at that level.
Local resident, former student at East Liverpool, graduate,
Yeah.
Drew Joyce,
Yeah.
another state championship, 2 in a row for St. V's, and a lot of young kids played. He started 2 freshmen,
Wow.
and so I would expect things. He could get there again next year.
Now, just a question about St. V's and Drew Joyce being at that helm for such a long time at St. V's. You've seen them get a giant shot in the arm, of course, with LeBron James coming through there, and that's a big draw with it. But there's something I've really noticed about St. V's. You don't have a massive amount of the transfers coming in throughout a year. You have kids that want to come in and start at St. V's early on and make it through. And then you got a program that has 9 kids that weren't there the year before. Bob, should somebody do something about that at the Ohio Athletic Board higher up to say that transfers need to be in the grades lower and not just with inside of a senior year or something like that? I mean, is there some sort of a way to guide that? Do you think?
I think they have some rules to address that, but it's been a long time with the Catholic schools can let's say recruit, but students can go to Catholic schools from other areas within a city like Youngstown, Cincinnati, Columbus, Cleveland.
As long as there's nothing else that could
Right.
be offering it that's closer by, and they do have
Right.
that because
It's
it's
a-
any
it's a-
parochial school at that point, right?
Exactly. I mean, and that's been a point of contention by a lot of schools.
Yeah, there's always the argument up in Youngstown about Ursuline being so heavy loaded at
Yeah.
times.
Well, you have Mooney, Ursuline.
Mm-hmm.
But anyhow, some people even suggested having the Catholic schools have their own tournament.
Right.
So I don't know how that would work.
I don't-
John might know if they have. Is there an eligibility rule where they have to be in school a certain amount of time before they can
Well,
play?
The new rule for the high school athletic association next year is now when you transfer in, if you don't move into the district, if you're a bordering student and you live on the border and you open enrollment, then the rule is now that you have to. But last year's rule was you had to sit out the first 11 games or first half of the season.
Yeah.
If it was football season, you moved in, you had to sit out the first 5. Now basketball, it's the first 11. Next year, the proposal is, and it's going to pass, and it'll probably be voted on this week, is when you move in like that, you sit the last 11 games, not the first 11, but you're not eligible for the tournament for the
Wow.
first year. So that may curtail some of that, and we'll see what happens with that rule. But
That's quite an amazing rule.
it is
to be put in there.
and I mean, kids going to think long and hard about, well, I can play the first 11 games, but then I can't play, and I'm not eligible for the tournament. Sometimes you go to a school, that has a tradition, and you want to play for a state championship. Now you can't.
Yeah.
So, if you move into the district and your parents move and they have a residence, then there's no problem.
Right.
It's just the people that come in and don't go to school. The team I was telling you about from Deer Park, guy was telling us, I read an article in the Columbus Dispatch down there, that 3 of those kids are considered homeless. They live together in a house. I don't know if they live with the coach or whoever.
Oh, my goodness.
But they live together. And, it's, like I said, it's kind of hard to compete.
It is kind of hard to compete as long as and if it's done on the level, then and you can find true talent, and there are great, amazing stories. But every time that you find a good, successful story, you find 3 stories where someone has done the absolute wrong thing just to elevate themselves and not that student athlete. And those are the things that make my heart break, is the fact that the student athlete is taken to a level without any personal development, without any development to handle that type of success at that quality of play. Then it is left up to a college that might recruit them to pick up the pieces that have been left behind by a possible high school. And those are the times that your heart just breaks, when there's another student athlete that has worked diligently, is a very good athlete, and maybe is not surrounded by the supporting crew that he needed, in that supporting type of a cast that would have catapulted him into a playoff. They might get overlooked. So you just hope that coaches and districts and ADs, they are doing the right thing, the entire time to make sure that they're promoting and doing the best for player development. The top division winner this year, John.
Cincinnati Moeller.
Were you impressed with Moeller this year?
Yeah, big kid, a 6'10" kid, is going to Texas to play. Best kid in the tournament was from Solon. Solon got to the finals. They beat Pickerington Central in the semis on Friday, losing the whole game right at the end of the third quarter, cut it to 2, come out and got some momentum early, scored like the first 10 points, and they win the game by 5 or 6 points. But Solon had a kid by the name of Sincere Perry, who is going to West Liberty. Is a lot better player than West Liberty. Nothing against West Liberty.
Yes,
don't get me wrong, in Division II. And Youngstown State offered him the year before, get a new coach, they take the scholarship off the table. He had an injury in the summer, didn't play in the AAU tournaments. They took the scholarship off the table. He ends up at West Liberty. A lot better player than playing. And I'm sure if YSU had to do it all over again, this kid would be back there. But
I'm also thinking we're going to see a transfer out maybe after the first year for him to come out of a Division II into Division I school.
Yeah, he's definitely a good player.
But he's not going to miss any playing time or some good challenge at West Liberty.
Yeah,
That's
if you leave
a
and
heck
go
of
up
a schedule.
Class, you don't have to sit out. You transfer Division I schools, you got to sit out a year. You go D2 to back to D1, you don't have to sit out. You can go right back and play.
So we've been talking about the high school and about how to make things a little bit more equitable. What about this amazing thing that's happened with inside of college athletics? And we're about to jump right into this discussion about the men's Final Four with inside of Division I basketball, but I can't get there until I talk about the NIT, the teams that didn't make it. Last night I watched an amazing game, and I've enjoyed watching these guys play on and off. But Western Kentucky, how many times have you heard Western Kentucky mentioned throughout a sporting year that comes up to play? Here's Western Kentucky playing Penn State in the semifinals for the NIT championships.
Western Kentucky played Utah.
They played Utah.
Yeah.
My apologies. That was the
all
game
right.
before. So they played Utah. Utah ends up beating Western Kentucky, but what a game Western Kentucky brought onto the floor. The lead change happened about every 3 minutes. You had a lead change inside of that game, tied for quite a while, back and forth inside of that game. And you have to just tip your hat and say there is something to this equity that's beginning to happen inside of collegiate athletics, where these programs that people have not heard of, programs that have not had a lot of television attention or national attention are making it happen. I tip my hat to the NCAA for instituting the way that they can divide that money and help the scholarships and allow for folks to be able to get themselves all pulled together on that. And it's spring cleaning time as well. Spring cleaning. We got coaches leaving. We got coaches coming in. Pitt, Bob, they announced a big one today or yesterday, didn't they?
Yesterday, I think that's about the best person they could come up with right now. He's a outstanding recruiter, He's been with the Duke program for 7 or 8 years. He's been Coach K's right-hand man, so to speak, and he even took over the team when Coach K had his back surgery. So I think they got a very capable man there, and I hope their program, it can't go any further down. So
It can't do that. But what's his number one priority? Would it be what's his number one priority with the personnel that are in that locker room right now? Because I know everybody's saying you've got to recruit better than what everyone that's transferred away from Pitt and what has happened with that fallout. What's his top priority with the guys that are in that locker room?
already heard he's scheduled individual meetings with the ones who want to leave Pitt. He wants to talk to them, and a couple of them even indicated they might come back to the program now. So we'll see if he can something to start with, and then give him a couple years to recruit. From my understanding, he got a 7-year deal up there. So in 7 years, you can do a lot. They only allowed Stallings 2 years, but nothing was moving in any direction.
They're still paying him for 3 more.
That's right.
Yeah, that's going to hurt Pitt a little bit on that. But I think that the new coach is going to make it happen. You know.
Duff and I were just talking before we came on the air. It's just, all that talk about who they were going to get, and they were going to get this guy, and then he turned it down. They were going to get this guy, and they turned it down. And I think a lot of the Pitt alum and a lot of people in Pittsburgh were kind of hoping that Sean Miller was coming back. But a friend of mine told me his dad's on the board of directors up there, the Panther Club, and which is the varsity club for Pitt. And he said their legal counsel said under no circumstances was he coming back. There was just too much baggage, and they weren't going to be able to, take a chance on something happening. So, with what they came up with, it's totally amazing. He came out of left field, and he may have talked to him when they were there for the NCAA tournaments, first and second round. They may have showed an interest, AD, and I know she's taken some heat too because of how things happened or didn't happen, and for her to come up with this hiring is hats off to her because she did her job.
Yeah, absolutely. Did the job to the nth degree. Everything came together on that, and I don't know about, like you said, with Miller coming back, with that controversy, everything still has to get settled over that. That would be a very, very scary type of a move to make, even though it would feel good.
Yeah.
But sometimes you need that expert from outside to come
in.
in.
You're not messing with the NCAA there. You're messing with the FBI.
Exactly. That's a whole nother world.
And Duff hit on a good point with Pitt giving Capel a 7-year contract. The new coach at Louisville left Xavier, Chris Mack.
Yeah, I was just going to move to that one right there.
And he got 7 years. So, I know those 7 years aren't etched in stone, and it's not easy, but the coaches have a buyout. If they want to leave for some, say Krzyzewski decides to hang it up after next year, and Capel was the coach in waiting, and he's got opportunity to go back to Pitt. Or Duke? You think he's staying at Pitt? I mean, the buyout's going to be tremendous, but that opportunity is going to be, and I don't think that's fair to the kids either.
No.
Guy should commit himself unless he does something wrong or the school does something wrong, gets on, somebody does something, put them on probation or whatever. They should be obligated.
There's something special about a coach that should be special about a coach.
Right.
And it's not just about how they can bring someone in or manipulate a
when
game.
you go in and recruit a kid and you say you're going to be there for 4 years and the kid signs to come there because of you, you sell the program, and then the next year something better comes along and you take off. That's not fair to that kid.
Nope, not fair to the kids at all. And in my game, my idea, coach is there for that program and for the kids. Now, when you get to those giant levels of professionalism, I understand that, but this is still college when you're dealing with people, and you're making special things happen. And you talk about something special, folks. If you weren't viewing this and seeing this on YouTube, go back and take a look. Go back 2 weeks before the tournament began, and you'll hear the prediction right there. It's on YouTube. It's there. It was said right where Bob is sitting right now. Professor Duffy put air in his lungs and let those vocal cords ring out, and he picked Loyola of Chicago beating Miami in that opening play-in round. And here's Loyola walking into the Final Four there. Mr. Duffy, how good you feel about that pick?
No, they're a very good team, as everybody can see. They play both ends of the floor, and they're my pick.
Well, why didn't the nation see that coming in? What happened with everyone missing that one?
You're hidden in the Missouri Valley Conference, and outside of Chicago, a lot of people didn't know much about them, but they were a very good team.
That's what I love about the sport.
Yeah.
Every now and then, here it comes. You know, that program that no one's looked at, the fact that equity's come together, and a coach and a program that believes in itself. And Missouri Valley Conference, they barely got through that area to be able to get in.
That's right. They won. All four teams in that three out of the four teams in the conference won in the tournaments, won their conference championships this year. So, I mean, Villanova's a team to beat. There's no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we all know that. But I think Loyola's got a shot against Michigan, and
And I sure hope he's right. But you know, Duff hit the nail on the head. The Missouri Valley Conference, kind of a little bit like the Horizon League, where YSU plays, a little step above maybe, but they had four teams in that conference that were very, very capable of playing. And I think Illinois State was in. They had a winning record, and Bradley's in that league, and you know they got some good talent, and you're recruiting in Chicago. It's one of the hotbeds, you know, where high school athletics are, and you know, they got some kids out of the city that usually go elsewhere and play, and you know, coach, you know, kids bought into the system. You win 2 games by 1 and 1 game by 2 to get to the Elite 8. You know, you're living right.
You're living right.
You got Sister Jean on her side, and
she's living right.
Yep. So you know, I mean, God, man, I'd love to see that happen. You know.
That'd be it. It's going to be a great game when it takes to the floor.
Loyola was in the Horizon League last year.
In the Horizon League last year,
right?
Just got out,
and they got out in the Missouri Valley. Yep.
Made that one step, and then everything's starting to move forward.
But
for
you
them.
know that's where people don't understand. You know, the Horizon League, when it started, I can remember going to YSU and seeing Butler play.
Mm-hmm.
Brad Stevens, coach of the Celtics, was at Butler, and they were playing in that league. And got to the Final Four twice, back-to-back years. You go up a youngster. I remember it was dollar night. $1 for a hot dog, $1 to get in, $1 for popcorn, $1 for a pop. And you're watching Butler, and then they were lucky to win. They were lucky to walk out of Bigley Center. I think they won the game by 3 or 4 points the night we're up there. And YSU led the whole game. And 4 weeks after that, they're going to the Final Four.
Right?
Crazy.
Making it happen. Yep.
Absolutely crazy.
You remember Loyola last won the NCAA championship in 1963, beating a very good Cincinnati team. And the East Liverpool boy was on that Cincinnati team, Kenny Cunningham. He was a sophomore that year. But Cincinnati led by 20 points at halftime. In the second half, Cincinnati coach Ed Jucker, who had just won 2 national championships beating Ohio State, decided to slow the game down, changed his style the second half. Loyola got momentum and got the game into overtime and beat Cincinnati in the overtime. So
no shot clock then, right, Duff?
No shot clock. Nope.
Were you at that game?
I was not at that game.
Didn't make it to that one.
The year before, I was at the Cincinnati Ohio State game in Louisville. But
it was kind of funny because Duff's talking about Cincinnati and Loyola playing. If Cincinnati doesn't blow a 22-point lead to Nevada the game before, them and Loyola play again last week.
They would have had the
I mean,
rematch.
it's crazy how that stuff happens.
It is absolutely amazing how that all comes back together. 1963, Ken Cunningham, Liverpool star, for playing for Cincinnati at that time, and ended up on the losing end of that deal and sending Loyola as the champion for the nation that year. Absolutely amazing, man. Crazy how it all comes together.
Yep.
So
Duff will remember this because I don't really remember how it happened. Back then, there was only so many. How many teams got into the tournament?
Was it 48?
No, never was that many. I think it might have been 16. They might have had four, and you had to win your tournament, like the ACC. If you didn't win your tournament at the end of the season, you didn't get in. Whether you were undefeated and you went into your conference tournament, if you didn't win that tournament, you didn't get in.
didn't matter.
No, whoever.
They didn't have conference tournaments that much in those days.
Right.
Only a few conferences had tournaments.
Exactly. The Big Ten didn't. The Big 12 didn't. The Pac-12 didn't.
Are you happy with the way teams get in now?
Selection committee. you know, I don't know. I mean, you win your conference, you're in. You know, I mean, somebody's going to get slighted. I mean, Penn State was a good team. Ohio State was a high seed, 5 seed. Penn State beat them 3 times and couldn't get into the tournament. Got to the semifinals of the Big Ten tournament and couldn't get in. You know, I don't know. You know, I guess it's as good as any system, but, you know, somebody's always getting left out.
Has its downs, pros and cons.
Yep.
Pros and cons. Gentlemen, we're at our half-hour mark right now. Any parting thoughts?
Just a good week for sports. Hopefully the weather breaks and the spring sports will get an opportunity to play some games. And, you know, Final Four on Saturday, semis. We didn't even mention the girls' tournament, Final Four in Columbus.
Yeah, I was just going to mention the
Columbus.
Nationwide Center's getting to be the home of that women's Final Four.
Semifinals on Friday. UConn, the odds-on favorite to win, plays my team, Notre Dame. And, you know, and then the finals are on Sunday. So, you know, there's a short trip to Columbus. And, you know, like I said, it's a good weekend for sports. And wishing everybody a happy Easter out there. Get out, enjoy yourself, have some family time, and enjoy your time off.
There you go. Mr. Duffy.
I just like to see it quit raining so these kids around here can play some
Don't you worry about that.
baseball.
JB's got this all taken care of. He's packing his bags one more time and heading to Columbus to convince the Ohio Athletic Association that no baseball or softball is allowed to be played until April 10th. And then on April 10th, just stack them and rack them.
Yep.
And play every day.
Sounds like a good idea to me.
You're talking sports with JB and Bob here at PNN Radio. Thanks for tuning in again. We'll catch up with you guys next time. Guys, thanks so much for joining me today. And here's some Chicago taking us out on this rainy Wednesday.